And welcome on into the Hiram College Network. I'm Ari Ross, Director of Sports Information at Hiram College, and I'm once again joined by one of the newest members of the Hiram College staff, Brad Bohlke, our new Graduate Assistant Sports Information Director. Brad, how are you doing today?
Doing well, Ari. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thanks for joining us. Of course, you are our new Graduate Assistant Sports Information Director, working with me in our incredible sports information department. And kind of to start things off, can you tell us how you've been spending the past few months quarantining social distancing?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate. I live in a great community. I still have the support of my family back home. It's actually kind of funny. Around March, I came home for my spring break to work the MAC basketball tournament downtown, and that was pretty much when the entire sports world shut down. So from about March to May, it kind of felt like a 2-month spring break for me. But this summer, I was able to knock out some of the last things I had to do academic wise. So all things considered, it's been a pretty solid summer overall, and it helps that it's been weather in Northeast Ohio this summer too.
Absolutely. So to get things started, can you tell us a little about yourself, your background, and sort of where you went to school and whatnot?
Yeah, so I'm a native Clevelander. I grew up here. I come from a family of athletes. I think that's what's kind of drove me to the world of athletics. Both my parents played sports in college. I have a couple cousins who have played and who are continuing to play sports in college now. And I'm definitely biased, but growing up in Cleveland, which is a passionate sports city, it really showed me really how much sports can affect society, I think not only on the field, but off it as well. And as I got a little bit older and the Cleveland sports teams had some more on-field success, I saw really that the power that sports truly could have, especially on a city like Cleveland. So I went to Bowling Green State University. Technically I'm an August graduate, but I wrapped up my time there in May. And I worked in the athletic communications office there for all 4 years, and I loved it. I fell in love with the position. I just really love how sports information, athletic communications kind of serves as the mouthpiece for an athletic department, and it was really neat for me just kind of seeing how the department kind of shapes the overall athletic department's sort of message and what they want to get out of their teams and athletes. So that's that's basically before I ended up at Hiram. Yep.
Of course, you interviewed with me over the summer, a bunch of our coaches. Why Hiram? How did you sort of end up here?
Yeah, so I'd say it's really 3 things. I think first, being able to continue to work in sports information, which, as I just mentioned, was something that I really enjoyed doing in college, and it was something that showed me that this is something that I seriously want to pursue as a career. Secondly, being able to pursue my master's degree and get a very reduced cost for an education was something that really stood out as far as the position went. And then finally, being able to stay fairly close to home. I'm from a small city called Reminderville, Ohio, closer to Aurora, Ohio. So I'm just under a half hour from Hiram, and especially this year being a little bit more of an uncertain year, I wanted to stay a little bit closer to home. So it was really a combination of all 3 of those things.
All makes perfect sense, and we're super excited to have you. And you've been on campus a few days already. How have the first few days gone?
Yeah, I think it's been really solid. Just seeing the campus, getting a feel for it. For me, I just think it's one of those things that, don't try and do too much at once, and just try and get a little bit better every single day and pick up on a couple little things. Obviously, it's such an uncertain time in the world of college athletics, but this could potentially be a blessing in disguise for me, just being able to sort of clean up on some of the things that I'm not as certain about. So that's really kind of the way that I've looked at it. But overall, it's been really solid and sort of laying the foundation for what the rest of the year is going to look like.
Absolutely, it's been a good start so far, if I say so myself, as your boss.
Yep.
But we are very excited to have you, and I think it's time for some more fun questions, don't you think?
Gotcha. Yep.
So you mentioned a little bit, but who are your favorite professional sports teams?
Well, Ari, I think you and I may agree on this one, but I'm going to say the Cleveland Indians. As I mentioned, native Clevelander. The Indians have always been my favorite team. Baseball is my favorite sport. And again, I was sort of hitting my adolescence when the Indians started to have a lot of success recently here. So, yeah, to the Cleveland Indians.
Absolutely. I can't say that's why I hired you, but it certainly didn't hurt.
Sure, yep.
Who is your favorite professional athlete?
Well, again, I'm going to go with another homer pick, but I'm going to say Francisco Lindor. For me, I just really love sort of his brand, both on and off the field. From sort of a more nerdy perspective, I really like that he was an Indians draft pick, and the Indians developed him, and he went from being sort of a Indians only known sort of player to one of now, I think, one of the faces of baseball moving forward. So my pick is Francisco Lindor. Yep.
Such a good pick because he's just such a fun player. And there's so
Absolutely.
many good players in baseball. There's not a ton of fun players. And
Yeah.
more
Yeah, very good point.
him and some of the others. And he's a fun player. I like that.
Mhm.
You have a favorite movie or TV show?
I'd say my favorite movie is Goodfellas. I definitely think I'm a little bit more of a TV guy. My favorite all-time TV show is Breaking Bad. And yeah, I'm currently watching Community on Netflix, which kind of a hidden gem, but I sort of bounce around back and forth between the two of them. But Goodfellas and Breaking Bad for my favorite movie and TV show.
Actually just wrapped up Community a couple months ago, and I highly recommend it. So we'll have to talk about it once you're.
Okay.
Do you have a favorite, or what podcast or song are you listening to right now?
Yeah, I really enjoy podcasts. Definitely during peak quarantine was kind of when I listened to a bunch. I kind of listened to them periodically. Probably some of my favorite that I listen to regularly, Joe Rogan Experience. There's a pretty good baseball podcast that's a little bit more stat heavy called Effectively Wild. And then I would say kind of any podcast that's kind of related to media, because that's sort of the path that I want to take for a career. So I kind of bounce back and forth.
So you're the third GA to say you listen to the Joe Rogan podcast.
Really? Okay. Something to talk about. There you go.
And Effectively Wild is my favorite podcast of all time.
Really? That's hilarious. I've never met another person in person that listens to it. So that's really funny.
It is a great baseball podcast. I would highly recommend to anyone listening or interested in baseball podcasts. So continuing our theme here, what's your favorite food?
I'd say a very well-made steak is my favorite food if I'm going on the more high end, or if not, probably hard to screw up pizza. But I'd say steak, my number one.
That's another good one. What is your favorite sort of athletics memory? Obviously, you didn't play sports in college like some of our other graduate assistants, but do you have a favorite Cleveland sports memory or Bowling Green sports memory?
Yeah, for me, I think as far as the playing route goes, I went to a small middle school and I went to a large public high school. And I played baseball and basketball in high school. And for me, and it's not that I wasn't ever that great, but for me, I was really wondering if I would be able to translate going from a small niche environment to Division I high school. And it was something that I really enjoyed. I made some really great memories and made some, really great relationships that I still have today. As far as non-playing goes, again, I know I said it earlier from a more general perspective. I think my time spent at BG overall, I really enjoyed. I'm hoping that that's kind of the foundation for the rest of my career. And I think more specifically last year, February of 2019, BG beat Buffalo in men's basketball when Buffalo was a top 25 team in BG. And it was unreal environment. It's probably the best college game that I've ever been to. So I'd say both from a playing and non-playing perspective, both of those.
25 upsets are always fun. I missed the one I could have gone to at college and rush the field or rush the court. So I envy those who've been able to. Of course, you've only been on campus a couple days.
Yeah.
What's your favorite thing about Hiram?
I'd say so far it's probably been just the onboarding process. For me, it's been really smooth, especially in times like these where a lot of things are uncertain. I really haven't had any problems in terms of, I think, both dealing with the athletic department and also academically as well. Everything's been, pretty much taken care of. As far as, I mean, all of the people so far have been very open, very nice in terms of if I ever need anything from them. And then finally, again, I went to, Bowling Green, kind of a rural type of campus, and I definitely get the same feel from Hiram. And living out in Northwest Ohio the last 4 years, it's definitely made me appreciate that feel a little bit more. So I'd say the combination of all of those things.
Last but certainly not least, we won't be scoring any points this fall. Are you excited to help us ring the bell?
Absolutely. Can't wait. Can't wait to get started, hopefully in the winter and the spring.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to have you aboard, Brad, and can't wait to get you started with more and more in the office. Thank you very much for joining me today, and go Terriers.